Today is the day that I finally try to fix this problem that I've been having in my throw for the last 12 years. Let's get into it. So today's video is going to be structured differently than videos in the past because today is also a discovery episode for me. I need to be understanding this position as well as I can because now it's something that I need to figure out how to fix in my throw. So the first thing that we need to discuss is the actual release angle that we're trying to achieve in our throw. I want to start off by showing you guys this video.
Here's an analysis of a typical shot put being fired at 45 degrees. It's well known, especially if we put a little mark here, that's well known that 45 degrees is the angle to get the maximum distance. So let's see what happens if we increase the angle. Yes, it goes higher but not as far, and if we decrease it, it goes lower and not as far. So yes, that does indeed seem to be the case. But if you look at the statistics from, say, the Olympics, you'll find that most shot puts are sent off at around about 32 degrees. Now, why should that be? Let's have a look. And the only possible reason is that the speed with which the human body can project something is much greater at 32 degrees than it is at 45. And so let's have a look at varying the velocity, which at the moment is 10. Let's just make it a bit bigger. Yes, look, you see it only has to go up by less than 10% and you far exceed the 45 degree line. So I think that's quite interesting.
So this is the biggest thing that I take away from this video, and that's that in most cases 45 degrees is the optimal release angle. For shot put, because the human body is made to get more power from a push than throwing it at a 45 degree angle, we can lower the angle, get more power from our body. So now instead of achieving a 45 degree angle, maybe it's something a bit lower. But I don't want to stop with just watching this video. I need to start to look at some 22 meter throwers because those are the guys that I want to mimic. I want to try to find some side angle throws of them and see if we can find a protractor or something like that we can line it up, see what their release angle is, and see if that lower release angle is actually what the 22 meter guys are doing. So this process actually yielded some pretty interesting results for me. So from the first video, I got the impression that the ball was being thrown at a 32 degree angle, which is kind of true. If you look at this, relative to the ground, his release angle is around 40 to 45 degrees. But if you look at the axis his body's on with his curved back and leaning backwards a bit, and base your angle measurement based on the position of the body and the center of mass, then the arm's being pushed out at closer to a 30 degree angle. And this result seemed interesting to me, so I wanted to find another video of Ryan throwing and see if maybe that was an exceptionally high throw for him, or if that's about where he's at. And again, the release angle relative to the ground is at the 40 to 45 degree angle, but if you shift that back to where his center of mass is lined up, then he's pushing the ball out at a 30 degree angle. And I didn't want to just check one person, so here's a video of Joe Kovacs and a huge foul that he had, and I was curious if a big foul meant that it was a more ideal release angle. And it yielded the same results as Ryan, where relative to the ground, again, about a 10 degree increase in angle compared to if you go based off the axis of the body. And then I continued on to Tom Walsh to see how his throw held up and if it was doing the same thing. Another 22 meter thrower getting around a 40 to 45 degree release angle with about a 30 degree push. So I think the first thing is true in that the ball being pushed out of the body is around 30 degrees, but relative to the ground, it's still flying at around 45 degrees. So now what do we do with that information? I went back and started watching some old videos, and there's a couple things that stood out to me to address lift that I want to cover. The first one is from Brian Oldfield.
Like I learned in my progression from the beginning of shot putting to back to holding it behind the ear, which by the way isn't really throwing the ball. When you look up, it's just putting it at a higher arc. Okay, the other thing is getting low at the front of the circle, a la Perry O'Brien, the J. I admired Feuerbach, DiBernardi, Jesse Stewart, Randy Matson. The guys, well, Matson didn't get that low, but he did throw off the top. To be able to get as low as you possibly can to develop the amount of lift that you need to overcome your speed. I always tried to get more speed or drive and more lift than anyone else on earth. And then I had a larger, longer application of power, a higher parabola, and a longer distance than anybody that I was competing with contemporarily and or for the next 12 to 15 years until this day, I would still be competitive.
So my takeaway from this video is that one of the best all-time throwers and the creator of this rotational technique, and I really admire his throw for how simple it looks, but one of his biggest cues still was getting more lift than anyone else. And I think looking into his mind years later, there's a couple things that you can see him talking about that I also want to apply to my own throw. And that's staying low on the legs and driving up to get lift, but also to recreate a steeper angle on my throw by leaning back a bit more. So I'm feeling now like I've got a much better understanding of the angles that I want to hit and some major body positions that I need to find so that I can get some lift. But now I need some cues or something that I can actually think about in the circle to break me out of old habits, get me into these new positions so that I can start to see some big throws. I want to bring it back to a video of Ryan Crouser from when he was a sophomore in college. And this is one of my favorite videos for him explaining some positions, some things to think about. And I want to pull out a couple of these cues that I can apply to my own throw and help me get some lift on the ball.
You're tucking it on your neck, and then your throw kind of starts here. It's just a wind, and then you're just pivoting left and swinging this leg out. And that's a big thing. It's a weird feeling when you're in the meet, because your first reaction is just to pull wide open and go as fast as you can. But you really got to start slow and accelerate. So if you're just coming about this fast into the middle, and so it's a really weird feeling. It just feels like an eternity when you're in the meet because you want to go faster, faster, faster. But it's just slow. Then you turn to here, and then it's just a step into the middle. And that's where everything kind of starts accelerating. And then this back foot is driving and turning through. And so you're just going from slow, and then it's just really slow, and then accelerate faster. And then that left foot, you're getting as much rotational energy as you can. And then you land right here and just turn this right leg as hard as you can and turn up through it. A lot of people think you land right here and it's just a push, or some people even think that it's a throw. But you're landing here and you're getting your whole body ahead of the shot. So the shot's almost behind you and it's almost more of a pull. So you get into this position and your body, everything's squared up, the shot's almost behind you, and you're getting to here, and so everything is squared up. You get your full chest so you can really pull through, and your best throws will go right down the middle. Because I mean, you don't want to throw them out because you're losing power. So your best throw, land right here. This left arm sweeps wide and pulls in. So you're just square, and then it comes right down the middle, and you're just jumping at the finish, and then landing right on the toe board and stay in the ring.
So there's a couple really important cues that I want to touch on from this video just so you guys understand and are seeing what I'm seeing. The first thing is the tempo out of the back. He talks about going slow to set it up so it's a constant acceleration. If you try to go too fast, going balls to the walls, ripping open with that arm right away, you're going to miss a lot of positions, and then you won't be in the position to actually feel the kinetic energy move through your body and snap the ball out on the finish. So the first thing going into practice tomorrow, I need to make sure that I focus on going nice and slow to set it up, develop the acceleration, and that'll help me actually feel positions. The second thing that I think is going to be very helpful is how he talks about the middle. He talks about stepping to the middle and then pulling his left leg through to the toe board. And from that position with his feet on the ground, he thinks about turning his left foot as hard as he can. And then he says on the finish, he wants a nice long off-arm wide sweep that's pulling straight down. And I think those positions will help me feel what he was talking about when he's saying it feels like he's pulling it and he feels like it's behind him and he's dragging it. Because if you look at his throw, and here's a clip from the Olympics, you can see his hips get through and he is pretty much in a position that he's pulling it. And him saying that, I know that that's truly what he's feeling in his mind, and it feels like he's pulling it on the finish, and I've never felt that in a throw, so I know right away that I'm missing something.
I actually left my shot put outside, so it's pretty dang rusty, but the gravel should knock all the rust off. I'm gonna get some nice wrist warm up, then do some picking in the field.
So I'm now recording this voiceover from the end of practice, and I just wanted to quickly mention the cue that helped me the most today so that you've got something to look for during my practice. The most helpful cue for me came from Ryan, and it was when he was talking about being patient, getting to the middle, and once your foot's down in the middle, that's when the throw starts and the acceleration begins. And he does that by actively thinking about getting his left foot down to the toe board to begin the rotation and acceleration. And that cue for me helped me be patient out of the back, and it felt like I was getting to the middle in a much better position. I still need to find the timing and the snap on the finish, but this cue helped a lot to make me feel like I was actually in a position that now I can do something and start to find that finish better.
So I've been finding there's a tempo that I can go that's not as fast as I can go. It's a bit slower, but when I go a bit slower, I can actually allow my legs to extend and actually finish the throw. So I really need to get that feeling consistent and do it on every throw. So the goal, nice and slow, good tempo to start off. Gotta let the hips get through and forward so that it gets me on that angle so that I can push it nice and straight into the throw.
Waiting for you. You were always taking time, baby.
Alright, I'm gonna go on to easy full throws, feeling the same thing. Just nice and slow so I can let the throw develop and actually work up into it.
You were running like a ghost from me. You were running from it all. You got me waiting. I'm on fire. You got me waiting. My desire.
Kind of feels like everything's coming through as a unit instead of really getting that left side into it and pulling the implement. So I want to just keep trying to feel that. It's day one. Alright, so I'm really liking the feeling of being patient over this side, waiting to get to the middle, and then feeling like I'm pulling that foot down. That feels like it's setting me up better. Now I need to just continue to think long off arm and get lift, drive up. It feels a lot better getting to the middle. It doesn't feel like I'm doing anything to actually feel the stretch and pull and snap. Just got to keep feeling it.
We're safe and sound. You got me waiting. I'm on fire. You got me waiting. My desire. I follow your heartbeat. Keep on moving. To the purpose now. To the end day. On the ocean. Keep on moving. To the purpose now. To the end day.
Actually felt like I was kind of underneath that one. I could feel it push a bit. So keep chasing that feeling underneath it and actually feel the push. That was one where I felt a bit rushed and I couldn't feel the kinetic chain develop through my body. So keep it a bit slower, a bit more patient, and keep working it.
Keep on moving. To the purpose now. To the end day. On the ocean.
All right, so that one I was just trying to feel the same thing, nice and patient, but feel the direction of the ball travel into the middle so that I can get back underneath it and send it up. I'm gonna keep messing around with that, but I like that feeling. I think I'm starting to get a little fatigued. I can feel the right arm pulling back more and more now. Moving on to discus, and I want to try to think about staying a bit lower throughout the whole throw so that on the finish I can drive up. Yeah, I don't think discus we're trying to throw it at 45 degrees, so everything's flat. So the way that I need to get lift is by actually driving up with my legs. So just want to feel it, experiment a little bit today. Arms high, level shoulders, get up on the finish. Stay low, disc high, feel the direction to the middle, loop it back around on that same thing like shot put. rest again, slow it down, feel the rhythm, and feel myself work up through it. All right guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there for today. My technique's starting to break down and I wanna keep it fresh in my head and not lose that feeling. So I'm gonna be back Wednesday with another practice to continue to work on the same things, and I'm very pleased how things are going. Starting to feel much better lift in the throw, both shot put and discus. The timing's feeling better, the power on the finish is feeling better, and at 50% effort for shot put, it was going about as far as my practices normally do. So that's a really good sign. And discus, I'm finally starting to feel like I'm getting a pull, getting some lift on it, and some things that I really like that I've been missing for a long time. Hopefully this video gave you some ideas on how you can start to look at other throwers, pick apart their technique, and find positions that you want. And sometimes finding old interviews of cues that throwers were thinking on is one of the most helpful things. And today that helped me accelerate a lot by having those cues from Ryan to think about today coming right into practice. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you on Wednesday with another one. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you really enjoyed it, subscribe for more. See you then.